Alrighty then. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Stretch It Out podcast.
Welcome!
Someone's got a brand new mic.
Can you guys hear it?
You sound better.
Does it sound like my real voice now?
It does. Turn the mic volume up a little bit.
Let's see. It's right
Turn it
there.
up. Yeah. Right there is good.
We're good?
Give us a little testing 1, 2.
Testing, 1, 2. Test.
Yep. I think it sounds good. It sounds crispy. So I guess I feel like I'm talking to a whole new person now because you have a microphone. And I don't know like how bad this is going to sound when I tell everybody what happened.
You guys, if it's anything that sums us up, it's this, right?
Yeah, like I don't even know where to start.
Like Dumb and Dumber, you know?
Yeah, this is like so bad because like how did I not figure it out, right? Like how did I not figure it out? That's bad, but the reason I don't have such a big problem with telling the story is because how did you not figure it out?
Well, I looked on my output and it said that it was the mic. So
Yeah.
I assumed it took that over.
Well, check this out. So I didn't connect the dots until I asked you because I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? Her voice has always sounded the same when we record. And I remember telling you, get closer to the mic, move away from the mic, and it didn't change. And then when I asked you, there's my dogs again. I said, what are you using to listen to me? And she was like, oh, just my AirPods. And immediately I was like, oh my God, we've been using your AirPod mics the whole time.
Even though it said output, that it showed the microphone as the output. Yeah,
but I knew immediately, I was like, okay, those things are not that sophisticated, you know, where you can go in there and tell it, I only want you to play sound and not activate the microphone. So I'm going to use a different microphone. I don't think iPods or AirPods have that
capability.
Yeah, I don't think so. But anyways,
well, now
that's
we know
what happened. So the whole time she's been recording with that. No wonder it sounded so bad.
So I went out and bought a really expensive mic when who knows, that other mic could have been okay. But I'm happy with this one. I like this one.
It sounds a lot better.
Looks snazzy. And it's got controls. I like that it has some controls. The other mic did not have that.
But what I kept telling Audrey about was right before we were getting on, right before I pressed record, right? Like we always have to prepare before we press record and
it takes us like 40 minutes because of
enter. To enter podcast line. But what's so funny is that she had, because remember, we were troubleshooting this mic for a while. And so everything at this point was maxed out on the mic. Like all the knobs were all the way up.
I can't stop laughing.
And the funny part is when the mic was actually working, I'm sorry, I'm struggling. I know that's, yeah. When the mic was actually working, everything, I could hear everything. I'm hurting. I've got tears coming out of my eyes.
So
And that's part of the joke that I'm trying to tell you guys is she every time, oh my gosh, every time she swallowed, I could hear it like so clear. And I was like, okay, that's at first I was like, that's weird. Like, and I thought maybe she just took a drink of like a soda or something. And then she kept doing it. And I quickly was like, that's going to get annoying. So I said something. I finally said something to her and I said, Audrey, you're going to have to stop swallowing so loud because it's really picking it up. And again, we didn't have that figured out yet that it was because the mic was maxed out on everything. But in my mind, I'm like, dang, this mic is picking up everything. Because on my end, she was too loud. And so I turned her down on my end, right? But I'm still hearing everything that her mic was picking up, and it was crazy. And at one point, Audrey said, because I think she was laughing or something, and she said, "Can you hear the tears coming out of my eyes?" Because it was picking everything up at that point. So,
and then you kept saying, "You're like, you got to stop swallowing." And I said, "I'm not even drinking anything. That's just the saliva going down my throat." I don't know. I didn't know how to swallow quieter. But
yeah, we're good now. I think we've made some adjustments to the mic. I don't think it's picking up quite literally everything, but it is clearer. So welcome to the other side. Yeah, welcome to podcast land. and welcome to your new mic, because I'm liking it. It sounds a lot better. I think the listeners are going to be like super appreciative. So,
and I hope that you guys understood all that we were just talking about in between us laughing.
I know. Yeah.
You ever try to tell a joke where you just can't get it out because you're laughing so hard?
Yeah, and meanwhile, everybody else is like, "Yeah, wish I knew what you were laughing about," but
so
I don't.
All you had to do was turn down the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb and Dumber. It's fine.
Yeah. So we've made it, though. Here we are, episode number 6.
Yes.
Episode number 6 with our listeners. We keep getting awesome feedback from all of our listeners, and I love the feedback that we're getting, and I love sharing it with you. And just before we started recording this episode, I was telling her about my cousin Andy.
Yes.
Sending us some love via text message. Andy, we love you too. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I did send a couple different screenshots to get the whole conversation over to Audrey.
I have not received those yet, though. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Did they say?
You know why? Because I took them and I didn't send them. So, and has anyone ever photo bombed your screenshot with a text message? Alyssa did that to me. So shout out to Alyssa. I was taking a picture of Andy's message, and then your text popped in, and you photo bombed my. I don't know. Is that a photo bomb? Is that what that's called? Or like a screenshot bomb? I don't know.
I'd call it a screenshot bomb. I like that. I call it that.
Yeah. So anyway, Alyssa, good job. Good job on your timing. And Andy, thank you. Thank you for the love. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Andy, I'm excited to read your text messages when I do receive them.
Yes. Yes. And we got some more love from Chris Tracy too. I think I sent you that too.
Yes, I did see that one. I love that one.
Yeah. Freaking awesome. So anyways, we're talking about on episode 6 today, we are talking about self-talk. And that is thanks to the advice that I got from Chris Phillips, because we were talking about the podcast the other day, and he was like, "Well, what are you guys going to talk about?" I don't even know if he said that. I might have just said, "I don't know what I'm going to talk about on the podcast."
Probably brought it up to him.
Yeah, no, he was probably talking about something relative, that everybody was talking about. And then I probably just said, "Chris, I don't know what I'm going to talk about on the podcast." And he probably just turned to me and said, "Why don't you just talk about self-talk? You keep talking about it like you want to talk about it. So talk about it." And I was like, you know what? You're a brilliant man.
He was like, "Hey, stop procrastinating and do it."
Yeah, he might have said that, actually.
Which, I mean...
That sounds like something he would have said.
Me procrastinating on his card that I still have not sent him. I'll get that over to you.
Yeah, that's pretty rough, because you put it out there.
I did.
Yeah. Which
we'll talk about on next week's call, for next week's podcast of what happened to Audrey this week. It's exciting, y'all.
Yeah, we'll save that. I mean, unless you want to talk about it. It's up to you.
we'll see. We'll see how.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll table it for now. We'll keep the listeners in suspense, right? Just
Yes.
uh anyway, so we're going to talk about self-talk. And Chris Phillips, you're right. I have been wanting to talk about this, and I didn't realize how much I wanted to talk about it until I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I've got a lot of stuff I want to say as it pertains to self-talk. And there's so much information, by the way, online. Google, right? You just Google self-talk and you will get so much really good information about it. So just saying that as a reminder, right? Sometimes you're not going to get like the in-depth look at self-talk here on the Stretched Out podcast, but you're going to get our perspective, and then you might be able to take that and go do a little more research online. But I'm a big fan of positive self-talk, but I'm also someone that struggles with negative self-talk and like self-deprecating talk. Okay. So it's like I know how important self-talk is and how important it is that I kind of try to keep it in check. But I have no problem admitting that I struggle with that. Like I really struggle with it. And it's not just my self-talk, like my inner monologue. It's also my self-talk when I'm in a social setting with people that I'm close with too. Like I struggle with that too, which is, self-esteem related, right? Or I should say the lack of, but self-talk to me is something I've been working on. And I wish at a young age, I would have found out how important self-talk is. You know what I mean? Like I wish, like at a young age. And so now I'm thinking like, man, I got to make sure I, somehow help my kids with that. But there's just so much that goes into what your self-talk is. And for me, I tend to have usually if I'm stressed out, okay, so like if I'm up against something, if I'm stressed out or I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed, I usually tend to first have the negative tone self-talk, right? Like the victim mentality self-talk. You know what I mean? Like why is this happening to me? Like why am I having to deal with this? Like you get what I'm saying? Like that, like I feel sorry for my self-talk. Like, is this how it's going to be? And I even do that. Like I'll, take it to like crazy extremes, and
that's exactly my thought process on that.
Which is not good. Right. Yeah. I mean, I go to like these weird extreme places in my head, and I'm talking about stuff eventually that's just not even like rational anymore,
Yeah.
And I tend to go there first. Like that's usually where my mind goes. So what I've been working on and what I've been really trying to improve upon is that in that moment, like, okay, I'm up against something, difficult or challenging. I'm trying to catch my self-talk. I'm trying to like, once I start having the negative self-talk, I try to catch it and stop it and go, okay. Like,
and it's so easy to, I will say it's so easy to let the negativity come in, because I mean, I do that quite a bit sometimes when it's like giving up. I don't want to say giving up, but I'll just say it because I want to say it.
What do you mean?
I want to release that negative energy. So if something happens to me where I'm just like, well, that doesn't really matter, so I don't need to worry about this. I feel like it's so easy for me to release like a small negative statement. And I don't like doing that because I don't like putting that negativity into the universe, because it's going to come back to me. But I can tell you this past week, I've been dropping things, sayings where it's like, well, that doesn't matter, But my boyfriend is constantly like, I don't like your bad vibes. You got to stop with the bad vibes. And I'm like, yes, you're right. So he's kind of been keeping me on track. But
good job.
It's very easy to say something negative, but you don't. I think like when I say it, like, how do I put this? I think when I say just something negative about myself or the situation, it's easy to say that one statement, but deep down in my heart, I don't want the negativity. I don't want to track that negativity. So it's like I have to teach myself that when I am hurt or bothered by something or something like that, that I can't release that kind of energy because I'm going to get I'm going to attract what I'm putting out, and I don't want that, you know?
Well, it's almost like you're accepting it too, right? Like you're
Yeah.
like when you're like for me, like sometimes I'm that way. I'm like, go figure, right? Like that's me just kind of like accepting it, like laying down and just
Yes.
going, yep, like take me, right? Take me as I am. You know,
But
it's
that's
bad.
exactly how it is, where it's like, I think I try and alter it in my head of like, oh, this is me accepting it, but really it's me being negative about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a temper tantrum.
Yeah. It's literally what it is for me.
Yeah. And that's where my mind usually goes. And that's why I've been working so hard on trying not to go there. You know, and it's not just there for me. It's also, you know, how I think about myself, right? That comes out in my self-talk that I have to be very intentional about keeping that in check and making sure that that's kept positive, right? Like, you know, the best example I guess I can give is for me, like when I look in the mirror, I'm not, you know, I'm certainly not like, you know, what's his name from Beauty and the Beast, Gaston. I'm not like that dude, right? Um, but I'm also, I don't know, I tend to get a little too like critical of myself, right? I think everybody does to some extreme. Like we find something that we don't like about ourselves, and then we tend to um, focus on it. I think we all are kind of that way, but that comes out in my self talk too. You know, like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, you know, look, I'm just gonna be honest. Like I've even like called myself names, right? Like, and I don't feel too awkward saying that because I think some of us listening probably, I mean, there's got to be someone out there that does that too. It's not, it can't just be just me. But like I'll like look at the mirror and I'll be like, yeah, dude, like you're freaking, you know, ugly, you know, or like, you know what I mean. So I say things that are hurtful to myself, which is stupid.
Mhm.
I shouldn't do that. And again, I'm working on that.
It's like you're
But
bullying yourself.
basically, yeah. And I think a lot of that, right? I mean, if I'm not taking my self-talk seriously, and I'm finally getting to a point. Thanks for staying with me on that little ride. If I'm not taking my self-talk seriously, um, that's the kind of stuff that's the kind of stuff that just, you know, is poisonous to me and my relationship with myself. And
Mhm.
it's easy to just kind of make the self-talk realm where we throw all the stuff that's bad, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that it is bad. I'm telling you that everything that you're throwing into your self talk, that you're writing down, that's happening on the inner monologue, is just as important, if not more important, than what's actually, to your point, being put into the universe. It's being said. Uh, it's that important.
I
You
agree
know
with that.
how you talk to yourself and the things that you say and what you say. And there's a lot of people out there that I'm sure struggle with that. You know, I mean, we've got think about how much. I mean, think about how many conversations you have just in a day with people. You can go look it up online. I'm sure it's like crazy numbers, but just imagine like how many conversations you're having with yourself in, you know, the window of a minute.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in your head, like we can have multiple conversations kind of at the same time with like just crazy different things and thoughts and right. And all the stuff that's happening, I think, when we're actually directing conversation at ourselves, we're having that inner, you know, that self-talk. It's insane if we're not being somewhat intentional about what we're taking in and what we're counting as, you know, self-talk, right? So
I think it's like the worst time it comes with with your self-talk is at night or just in a quiet setting and it's just you and your mind. I feel
But
like,
especially if you got something big going on the next day, right?
yeah.
You know, a lot of my self-talk, it's funny, like I'll bounce between I'm talking to myself and then I'm talking to God, right? Like I'm talking to myself and then I'm praying, um, which is weird. But again, my point is like I can have so much going on while I'm talking to myself, uh, conversationally. Like I can have so many different topics that I'm covering, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and all of that stuff does have an impact on how we, you know, perceive things and how we approach life, right? How we approach the day. It's all these conversations that we're having inside of our heads, these conversations that we're having in the heat of the moment, right? You've got to make a difficult decision or you've got to make a quick decision. It's stressful. Um, if if you're the type of person that's telling yourself, I don't do well under this, right? Or this isn't for me, or right, those are just the people that are, you have a less, you know, less chance that you're gonna be successful in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it works. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so important that I think we're intentional about that stuff. And I'm so glad that like I seek out. I have since I was fairly young. I want to say 18. You know, really sought out like just self development, right? Through, you know, reading a lot of books. And now there's just, you can get so much online and, you know, YouTube alone, right? Um, and so I learned eventually like how important that was through a lot of the books that I've read. But the, uh, the thing that really, the thing that is, I think is most important that for all of us to understand is that if you're having the bad self-talk and you're, you know, and all of us, I think, are struggling with that in some way, right? I think in some way
Yeah.
we're struggling with it, maybe in just a particular area of your life. I just want to encourage you to try taking a different approach, try something different, try a different conversation with yourself. And it's easy for someone to just go, hey, you just gotta love yourself. Like
Yeah.
just go love yourself some more, man. Like that's all you got to do. Um, I know that that's hard. It's really hard. It's not easy to just love yourself. It's, you know, and I think that we're lacking that in a lot of ways. You know, I struggle with that, you know, and if we're not, if you're not, you know, getting some type of, um, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's like you have to make the effort, I guess, to have some make some time for some positive self-talk for yourself and move some of that other stuff, you know, away. Like just don't allow it anymore because it's so bad and you don't even realize how bad it is
I
until
think
you're, you know, until you're forced to realize it probably at the wrong time, right? The worst way. But
I think something that could really help with self-talk is like just taking that extra 15-30 minutes a day and just meditating on yourself. I don't
meditate on
Yeah.
yourself. Oh, like take an inventory there of like,
Well, I mean, like, if you think about it, I don't know, people, I mean, I know I meditate quite a bit. It's not something that I do every single day, but when it's something that, like, I'm struggling with, or if it's something that I'm going to be facing, you know, like, my meditation is me driving. I like just driving or listening to classical music, but meditating on, um, you know, for me, it's putting it out in the universe. So it's definitely work for me to speak positive on myself or a situation that I'm scared that's going to be negative, that I want to meditate on the
it is
situation.
work. Yeah.
I think that's probably like one of the hardest things for me to work on
Mm-hmm.
is bringing positivity to myself.
But think about what it does. Uh, you know, the power behind doing it, the power behind saying, you know what, I'm going to make a conscious effort to correct my self-talk when it needs to be corrected, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you're going to have perfect self-talk going forward, and, every conversation you have now with yourself is going to be beautiful and rainbows, and it's not going to be like
Everything's
that.
gonna be perfect.
But if you're willing to at least take that step and just go, you know what? Maybe you're like, I've never even really paid attention to my self-talk.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? I mean, maybe there's somebody that's listening that's like, you know what? I've never really paid attention to my self-talk. Never thought I've had an issue with my self-talk. And maybe you don't have any issues with your self-talk. If that's the case, that's awesome.
Kudos. Teach me your ways.
But if you do, if you're like, you know what, I could think of an area where I could probably do better, in terms of how I talk to myself. I want to encourage you to do that, to just say, I'm going to do the best that I can to correct my self-talk when it needs to be corrected. And I think that could be life-changing. I think it really can. There's a lot of power in what we think about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look at people that are very confident.
Yes.
Look at people that are confident people. Okay. And I'm not talking about somebody that you would say is like cocky. I'm talking about a confident person. Think about someone that's confident in your life that you respect, and you respect their confidence, right? And you respect them. Think about that person and think about, in your head, what do you think that self-talk looks like? I think the same is true for the other person, right? That lacks confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to lack confidence in a lot of settings. And I know that it directly impacts how everybody sees me. And if I could, if I could correct that self-talk, that could make that much of a difference, where it's, hey, you're getting the low, or I don't want to say low self-esteem. It just stings a little bit, but low confidence version of Nick, right? Or you're getting the confident version of Nick because he corrected his self-talk. And maybe it was just, a quick little conversation with myself, a little check, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to let myself do that this time. I'm better than that now, right? Or whatever. Like, how often are you telling yourself, like, you got this, right? You're good. You're going to do great. Like, I don't think we, as individuals, put enough time and effort into taking care of ourselves. Like, we need that too, and if we're not willing to do that, I feel like it's really hard for us to take it to the next level, right? Like, you go to the gym, Audrey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a conversation you have to, that's self-talk that's getting you there, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not like, you've admitted you don't wake up freaking jacked out of your mind to go to the gym, right? You're not like, oh yeah, like I'm so excited. And so there's a conversation that has to be had. And it's not just the one time. The conversation wasn't when you got your membership. The conversation happens every single time you go, I'm going to go to the gym. You have to have that talk. Now, if your self-talk, if you allow your self-talk to become negative and grow to become more and more negative, how long do you think you're going to be able to keep up what you're doing going to the gym?
Yeah. You're not going to be able to keep up. You're going to let it consume you.
Well, you get my point. Eventually, you're not going to go anymore. And it's going to start with self-talk. It's going to start with the conversation that maybe, you're not, you can't keep this up, or this is too much work, or I don't want to go anymore. Right.
Yeah.
You're having conversation, self-talk with yourself that's bad. That doesn't sound bad to you because it's comfortable at the time, but it's bad because, again, you've got to value yourself enough to go, wait a second, this is important to me, right?
Yeah.
This is important to me. This is why I'm doing this. And it's really hard to catch those moments if you allow your self-talk to just go. And I say that from experience. Am I making sense?
No, you
or am
are.
I just confusing everybody?
Everyone confused yet? No, I mean, it totally makes sense because it starts off with something like just relaying back to the gym situation, you know, it starts off with, because let's be real, I think all of us have joined gyms and then, you know, we just kind of fall out of it and cancel our membership. It always starts off with like the smallest thing of like, oh, I just got off work and I'm tired and I don't want to go to the gym. Like, I feel like that's just how it starts. And then it becomes a snowball effect. So
And
if you, it's the same thing if you're doing self talk. If you
yeah,
start off with something small, of saying like, I know me personally, my thing all the time is like, I tell my boyfriend all the time, I'm like, am I pretty? And he looks at me like I'm crazy, and I'm just like, I don't know, I don't feel pretty right now. And then of course,
right.
like I said, he says like, I don't like your bad vibes. But I can guarantee you that every female constantly feels like that, that we're not pretty enough or something, or we're not smart enough. And I think it starts off with something small, as saying like, "Oh, I don't feel pretty," but then it can snowball into something bigger.
Exactly.
So, and just like you said with the gym situation, you know, it's not a one time conversation of like, um saying something positive like, oh, okay, because I told myself I am beautiful and I could do whatever my mind, you know, whatever I set my mind to. Just because I had that one conversation, it's not gonna change my self talk in that one conversation that I'm having with myself. It's something that you have to
Over time.
continuously, yeah.
Yes.
And
You have
that's
to
the
stick
hard
with
part,
it.
right? Because
That is the hard part.
we want instant results now.
Yeah.
Same, you know, but
That's what I want.
you don't get instant results. You have to stay on top of it, and you have to be continuous and committed to it.
Yeah.
And
I'm with you.
that's the difficult part of it.
Yeah. And so you're supporting my point
Hmm.
because it starts there, right? It's like uh, it starts with your self talk. It starts with what you're allowing to occupy um, conversation in your brain. There's no, I mean, to me, it seems so clear cut. You know, you've got, it starts there. Everything's going to start there. If you're going to be successful, it starts with having the right conversation with yourself, the right self talk. And to Audrey's point, it's going to take time with your self talk too. You've got, you don't, it's like a muscle that you're working out,
Yeah.
right? And if you get lazy with that muscle, eventually you're not going to go to the gym anymore because you've allowed your self talk, the negativity within it, to to grow and to take over. It happens like it's crazy because I have struggled with this in so many levels in my life, and I look back all the time and I'm like, man, I wish someone would have told me again at a young age, how important my self talk is, because I have perfected over the years some pretty poor self talk,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna assume that there's other people out there that probably feel the same. And so once you figure that out and you're like, wow, like my self talk is bad, um, and you start looking at it as, okay, like I'm going to start working on this. Like this is the new muscle I'm going to work out, let's call it, right? It's crazy how much, I don't know, just how much you learn about yourself in taking that on and just going, you know what, I'm going to really focus on my self talk a little bit here and really try to make it healthier, right? The impact that that's had on me, is huge. And even having it in the moments where it's really hard to have it, it's gotten easier for me to have those, to bring in some positivity. And I think it's because I've worked on it for so long, right?
Hmm.
Where in the, usually in the past, again, I find myself in that situation when I feel like I got my back up against the wall. It was, the Eeyore mentality, right? That took
Yeah.
over. And it all stemmed from my self-talk. That's what it stemmed from. And I just feel like I've done a better job of kind of working that out, working that muscle out, if you will. And when you go to work and when you're going to vacation, right? Different types of self-talk going on there. I get that. That's pretty obvious. But I think that's important too. You know, self-talk when things are going great.
Yeah.
What's your self-talk? I mean, think about that. It's crazy. There's so many people that right now are doing so many great things. And they've been blessed, let's say. And even their self-talk is all jacked up, right? Some of them, don't feel like they deserve it. They don't feel like they deserve the blessing. You know what I mean?
Well, rephrase that for me. So they're blessed, but why don't they feel like they deserve it?
Their self-talk is, oh, I don't deserve all this. And right, like,
Oh, okay.
I haven't done anything to deserve this. And they start to feel guilty. And, you see a lot of people that we tend to see people that have like a lot and just assume that like, oh my gosh, they must be like the happiest people on the planet. But a lot of them, like, especially if they really were like truly blessed with what they have and, almost like, wow, like just kind of fell into this, there's a lot of people that struggle with that.
Yeah.
Mentally, like they really struggle with that. It's not, I know it's hard for a lot of us to comprehend that because you're like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand it. But there's a lot of people that do. And, again, it's that self-talk, right? It does impact how we feel, and it does impact what it is we're going to take action on and what it is we're just going to go, I'll do that later. It's all self-talk.
Yeah.
Right. And when you start to fight that, when you start to go, okay, that's something I can work on. I think I can do a better job there. It really is like refreshing, right? You're not walking around saying, you love yourself all the time, but just catching it when you're like, okay, I'm probably allowing myself to have some poisonous talk right now. I need to stop that.
Yeah. I think like the true defining moments are going to be, when you're in a bad situation. What's your self-talk look like? Because it's easy to self-talk when everything's going great and everything's just dandy.
Yeah.
But what's your self-talk look,
when it's not?
Yeah, in the darker times.
In the face of the unknown,
mm-hmm.
Right?
Especially change. A lot of people suffer, not suffer, but a lot of people don't like change. And I think that's a big self-talk because it's easy to talk negatively on change, but if we never change, there's never any growth,
Yeah. It's the only guarantee, right? It's the only constant too.
Yeah. It's terrifying yet exciting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's all you're going to go into. You're not going to.
What?
I thought we were peeling back the onion there.
The onion here, like Shrek. We're peeling it back. Well, I'm just going to come out and say it because I feel like self-talk is going to relate to what happened to me in this past week,
I think you should. And I think everyone's going to appreciate it.
Hearing you talk about this is like, I think I'm listening more to you rather than like speaking on this because I'm like, yes, I need to hear this right now. So last Tuesday, and this is why I didn't send you the card last Tuesday, Chris, and I apologize. Our company laid off over 500 employees, and unfortunately, I was affected by it. So I was laid off amongst tons of friends, and it was something that never happened to me before. And of course, it's never happened to like any of my coworkers and I call them family, so it was, talking to them in that situation, like it felt like somebody had died, like a close family relative. Because we put in, bad. Yeah. Like, you put heart and soul and tears and sweat and everything into a company, but they, unfortunately it's business and they couldn't sustain that many employees in order to make a profit, so
Yeah.
they had to let a lot of people go. And so unfortunately I was one of them. And, I'm thankful that I'm pretty, smart with my finances and stuff, but there's so many people that I know that they weren't smart with their finances, or maybe their bills were too much, whatever the
Yeah.
case was. And I think that killed me the most, was seeing, nothing hurts me more than seeing someone that I care about suffer,
Yeah.
So I would rather if I could, I would rather take away all that pain and put it on me, because it's easier for me to have pain than to see somebody else in pain.
It's because you're a good person, Audrey.
Yeah. So yes, that happened last week. But immediately, I feel like whenever something tragic or terrible happens in my life, I think I react a little bit opposite than the most than the rest of the population. Like, what are the grieving stages? Like the mourning stages? Isn't it like, I don't know? I'd have to look those up. You know what
I
they
don't
are?
know. I have no clue. There's actual stages?
Yeah, to
I didn't.
grieving. There's like 4
Yeah.
stages. So
Okay.
I think I work backwards on that, because as I was on the phone, excuse me, as I was on the phone being told by the attorney and my boss, hey, after this phone call, you no longer work for the company, all this stuff. I'm in the middle of texting and reaching out to like my networks. And I said, hey, I know there was a position over here with the company and I want to apply for that position. So pretty much by the time I was done getting let go, I already had some other things in the works to, to
That's a
gain
blessing.
a job back. Yes.
That's
If it's
huge.
anything I could tell you guys, always network, always be a hard worker and represent yourself, because if you're someone that people love to work with and for, they will do anything and everything to, people work for people.
Amen.
And so thankfully I have an interview tomorrow. So it's only been a week. But no, even though I got that set up, you're still hurt.
Oh,
And
yeah. It's scary.
like, how do you sell? And that's what I was talking about, where I'm like, oh yeah, this past week where people are saying, so me and my boyfriend, we went to Mexico, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
were supposed to go out to Mexico on Saturday. And he said, hey, I'm gonna take Friday off, let's go ahead and go to Mexico on Friday. And my mentality was like, well, yeah, it doesn't matter because I don't have a job. So I'm free. I don't have a job. I don't have anything to do. I'm free. And I think I said that to you too, Nick.
Multiple times.
Yeah. It's like the
Multiple
same
times.
thing, and I just keep like circling back around to like, oh yeah, I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. because I don't have a job. And especially I love my company and I still love the company. I won't speak negatively on them at all, because I understand that it's business at the end of the day.
Right.
Sucks, but I still love them and I still believe in what we do, and we change people's lives, and like we helped you, Nick,
Big time. Yep.
So yeah, I think that day, instead of resorting to alcohol, which a lot of people that I know did, I resorted to ice cream. I sat in my car
So
and I ate
you were
Dairy
screaming?
Queen.
Oh, ice cream.
We all scream
Just
for ice
kidding.
cream. But it's like you got to process, and it's crazy because like even though I reached out to my networks and they said, Audrey, don't worry, we're gonna get you this interview, you're gonna get this job and everything. I was still self-talking of like, well, what if I don't get this position? What if they don't like me because I didn't transfer when they warned me to, or
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm still thinking that. I'm like, my interview is tomorrow at 2:30, and I'm still thinking that. Where I'm like, well, they got 3 other candidates they're interviewing, and
Right. And I think
I need to stop
that's normal.
doing that.
Well, no, I think that's normal, right? I think that is going to, like you're going to have worry, right? Like that stuff, there's the unknown's going to exist, right? I think what's most important though is when you're talking to yourself in those moments is you have to know that uh, the Audrey that's going into this interview is going to be the same Audrey coming out of it, regardless of what happens, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not taking away any of your if you go into this interview and you don't get this job, they're not taking anything from you, Audrey. Like they're
Yeah.
not, you get what I'm saying? They're not taking away the experience that you have. They're not taking away the skills you've developed over the years. They're not taking away your charisma and, you know, your ability to talk to people and work with people. They're not taking away your work ethic. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're going to them and you're just saying, "Hey, here, here's Audrey," right?
Hmm.
You're going to answer whatever questions they've got for you, and then it's up to them. Like, is this the right fit for us or not? That's it. And then you're going to move on, because if nothing happens with this one, you're going to have another one, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of self-talk that I think is healthy for you right now. I'm not saying avoid all the things that, all the different emotions and stuff that you're going to feel. You're going to have that, but I think what's important is that you remind yourself that a layoff doesn't make you any lesser of a person.
Yeah.
And
And
so
it's
you don't have to
crazy
worry about that.
because it does make you feel like that. And it's like you have to remind yourself that you're not, because the first thing, like on the call, with the attorney, my boss and stuff, and as they're talking to me, like the first thing going through my head was like, was I not a good employee? Was I not a great team member? Like, what did I, and I'm asking her this on the call, which of course they have to read from a script legally, to protect themselves. And I'm asking these questions of like, well, what could I have done to prevent this, but there was no way to prevent it.
Right.
And so that's what I had to remind myself, which it took me about like 24 hours after everything happened, because of course you're speaking with all your other team members that I had, and they're all speaking negatively, and they're all freaking out, and it felt like people were being like killed. Like that's what it felt like, because we would get the call and it's like, oh, so and so just got let go. Oh, they just got something on their calendar, and
People are just getting dropping like flies.
Yes, that's exactly how I have a list in my phone. As we were getting names, we were typing it in, we were making a list. Like that's how serious it was.
Wow.
And then and then I found out, the next day, 300 people are going to be let go in the field, and I'm like, oh my god, my old team. And I just worried for them. But in those moments, I think, like you said, I'm so grateful that I have such an amazing network. And my former boss, who I consider a best friend, which is Roxanne. Shout out Roxanne again.
Roxanne.
Because she's my contact. She's my network. She's an amazing person. And so as soon as I told her, she's talking to the regional vice president, and she's like, we need to fix this now, And so I'm thankful that I have that connection with her, and she does see my work ethic and who I am as a person,
Yeah, that's huge.
And she helps me with my self-talk all the time, because we were just talking yesterday where I'm like, okay, so I'm being interviewed by this person. Is there anything she's questioning about me and this and that? Because I want to be prepared. And she wrote back to me. She's like, okay, Miss Paranoia, you need to calm down. She was like, she's excited to see you in this interview.
Nice.
Because I always just think the negative about me, like, okay, what do I need to address? What do I need to overcome? But
well, anyway, that's good. I don't think that's negative. I think there's a healthy level to that.
I just think my level is unhealthy.
Yeah. There is an unhealthy level, though. Yeah. Most of the time, that's where we're at, is the unhealthy place.
Yeah. But no, So in a situation like that, your self-talk becomes very real in that moment. And I hate to say it, but it was rare. In those cases, it's rare that somebody else is going to be able to boost you up. So you truly have to rely on yourself in your self-talk.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to, I guess, trying to convey in some, like, you've got to work. It's like a muscle. You got to work it out,
Yeah.
right? You got to work it out because hard times are coming, right? They're always, always coming. And I think that how much work we've put into ourselves and how we think of ourselves and the things, that we talk about with ourselves, I think that's when it does have its moment, as like you said, Audrey, like that's when it's like, okay, here's your moment, self-talk, like let's
Yeah.
right, like this is what we've worked for, because that it's going to show up, and it's going to show up in the craziest of times, in the craziest of places. And so hopefully you've listened to one of the craziest of craziest podcasts, and we talked about self-talk. And
There it
Audrey,
is.
I'm super proud of you for sharing that with everybody, because I know it's not the best place to be, right?
Yeah.
And I know even with what you have, right? I mean, you've got to feel somewhat good about the fact that you've got a good network and but I mean, think about just for a minute, if there's someone out there listening to this and they're going through that right now. They're going through job loss, and they're going through the worry and the fear, and the different thoughts that come with that, and just how challenging that is. And think about the person that doesn't have that,
Yeah.
what, I don't know. Is there anything you'd be willing to offer up to that person? Because right now, where you're at, it would mean most coming from you because you're in the position, right? So it's easy
Well,
for
and
someone
that's
to
the
say, hey, this is what you got to do when that happens, but you're in there. And I hate to like put you on the spot. You can just hang up
no.
if you want.
Click. Bye, guys. No, it does, but see, I always think like we've talked about it before that whenever you're in a situation, you know that there's someone else that's in a even more difficult situation than what you're in, right?
Always.
So when I look at myself, I'm like, yeah, it sucks and everything, and I'm heartbroken and everything, but there's somebody out there who doesn't have any money in their account. They don't know how they're even going to pay, next month's rent. Like that's what I'm looking at, because we ended up letting go a lot of like I said, people in the field, and typically people in the field, their hourly wage, and not salary like the rest of us, where we got these severance packages and things like that. So I I guess in those situations, there's no time whatsoever to procrastinate, and for me, there was no time to be sad. I don't get me wrong. I was crying on the phone, bawling my eyes out, trying to get my words out to my former boss and everything of what comes next and why me, all that. But after I hung up that phone, I just told myself that there's no time to be sad and there's no time to be upset with anything. The only time that I had was to reach out to my networks, or if you don't have any networks, get on LinkedIn, get on Indeed, and start putting your resume out there, because you don't have time. If you're somebody who doesn't have any money in your account to sustain you for the next 2 or 3 months, like you don't have time to be sad. And I
Yep.
hate to say that, that's gonna sound heartless, but you don't.
A little insensitive.
Yeah. Sorry guys, but I am. You gotta get shit done, especially if you have a family. I'm lucky enough to be single. I live on my own and stuff with I have my other roommates, but I'm someone who doesn't have that to I don't have a family that I have to take care of, which that would be even more traumatizing to me, because that would give me even more motivation to get out there.
Right.
But something to take away, like people who are affected with being laid off, and this is why you do create networks though. When you are working, create networks and meet other people, whether they're in different companies or different departments or teams or whatever it is, but network with those people that when something does come up that's this drastic or terrifying, you have someone to reach out to.
Yeah. Your network is your safety net as well,
Like that.
right? You're creating that always, right?
Yeah. And
You're
that's a
always creating that.
constant thing. Just like self-talk, it's a constant thing. Always network with people. Create that relationship, that friendship, whatever it may be, but create that foundation, because that's what's gonna help you when you most need it, and that's what's gonna maybe help them when they most need it too.
True.
So
Yeah, appreciate you
sorry
being
for the
so
sensitive message of you don't got time to be sad.
no, but you know
But
what I appreciate about that is like that's you just kind of gave everybody a real look under the hood. Like this is, this is Audrey real life, you know, not saying that you're not real life all the time, but a lot of people don't get to see that, job loss is usually very private. It's not something that a
yeah,
lot of people talk about until after the fact, right? Until after they
yes,
found something else, and then they'll, then it's easier to talk about because I'm on the other side of it now, right?
yes,
Difficult to talk about how you almost drown when you think you're drowning,
hmm,
right? But you're there, you're in this, and I think that that's super cool of you to be able to say, okay, well, I'm going to talk about it, and I appreciate it. I think it's freaking awesome, and the fact that you're like, you know, saying what you're saying, we know that you're not candy coating anything because you're in it, right? You're in the trench right now, and you're
yeah,
willing to stop and have this conversation and say, yeah, like this is if I'm talking to somebody else that's in the same position I'm in, you're giving them a real honest look at what your frame of mind is, and that's huge. So I think it's great that that was the honest truth that you're spitting. Just, hey, straight up, you don't have time, get out there, do what you got to do. That's the mentality, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's the mentality that's going to get you from point A to point B the quickest,
yeah,
in my point. And I think it's great that you're saying, hey, you don't have time to be sad, because that's probably not something you want to sit and you know what I mean, and be bummed about. You probably do want to be busy looking for something, doing, getting out there. But
because it's easy to, you let that negativity come in. It's easy to just sit there and listen. I ate my ice cream. I think everybody else either drink a bottle of wine or tequila or ice cream that night. Like everyone I spoke to. Um, but you give yourself, that one day to be sad, but then after that, you get out there. But
what
like I
kind of ice cream were you eating?
so my new thing lately has been the Dairy Queen peanut wait, peanut parfait blaster with caramel sauce. It's amazing, guys.
Sounds good.
Only comes in one size too. But
Large.
yeah, I think I got a photo. Yes, large, extra large. I got a photo because I ended up sending it to my former teammates, and they were sending me photos of their bottles of wine and their ice cream.
See, that's kind of cool.
But yeah,
Support group supporting everybody to just kind of have your moment, like
yeah,
let's have our moment. Like it sucks, and I think that's good. I think it's like, okay, let's have our moment, get that out of the way, like you said, and freaking hustle.
yes, and that's exactly what so many of us did. The next day, we still keep in contact, obviously. Next day, we're all texting each other like, okay, well, I saw this position, I'm going to apply here. And, thankfully, some people were offered other positions that were just not as high as their previous position, but they were still offered a job.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
Heck yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the interview that I'm being granted for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
And best of luck to you on that.
so we'll see next week, guys.
Yeah, we shall see next week. We didn't get any feedback from anybody about ideas for upcoming episodes, and I think I know why. Sorry, I was looking at my phone, because if like you're listening to this, like a background or whatever, by the time it's over, a lot of times people probably aren't thinking like, oh yeah, I should probably send them that. But if you think of something that you'd like us to chat about, Andy kind of had, I'll send you what she sent, because she kind of was onto something. I remember when I was reading your texts, Andy, I was thinking, man, we should probably talk about that, right?
I'm anxiously waiting for that text.
But it might be like a little, like a twist on what we were talking about, right? But we were talking about, I think, just kind of dealing with emotions, right? But kind of more so like not dealing with emotions.
Oh.
Right. And I think it stemmed from procrastination, I think, is where she was like, I feel like I procrastinate kind of with things like that. And I mean, I totally see that, like with myself, like I can pick and choose things that I maybe don't want to deal with at the moment. And I think that I think that's good. Right. I think, but it's interesting. Maybe we talk some more about that and we come up with something that's worth talking about here. But if you've got an idea, send it our way. Cause we've got stuff. I just don't ever think that, again, here's my self-talk coming out. I just don't ever think that the stuff I come up with is any good. and I'm working on that, but I've got,
You need to listen to this episode right now.
I know. I did want to say though, you saw my message on Facebook. No, you didn't, huh? Because you don't check your Facebook like ever.
It's still something I'm trying to learn. No one has messaged me. I don't even know how to do the photos.
Well, do you remember my friend growing up, Matthew Piccioni? I played baseball with him.
Piccioni. Nick, you had so many friends. And I was a bit of a loser.
Really good dude. And I think we should have him come on. And just because I'm looking at some of the ideas that we do have for upcoming episodes, if we don't get any ideas from our listeners. But one that I wanted to talk about is doing what you love. Right. I think I have it on here. It says, what do you love to do and why? That's another one. But like doing what you love. Right. And he's doing his thing, and I just think it's super cool. And, there's just, I admire him for doing that, and I admire his perspective on life. And, so I just thought, I was like, man, it's super cool seeing him just do his thing. And I think it'd be nice to have him on, just to kind of chat with him and get his perspective on things, yeah. But we've got one on here. Let's see. We talked about that. Now, not later. Kind of talk about that already. Failing doesn't make you a failure. I like that. But there's stuff we want to talk about. We've got stuff, but we'd rather talk about stuff that you guys want us to talk about. So,
like, what pertains to your guys' lives? Because
yeah, I just think it'd be cool. Yeah. We also do want to get Dad on too for Tater Talk.
we want to hear "Take a Tater and Wait."
Take a tater and wait. Take a tater and wait. Yeah, it's a good jam. Good jam.
It's a classic.
It is. But yeah. So yeah, send us some ideas, please. Please send us some stuff. Or just send us a high five. We love those too.
Whether it's something you want to talk about, or maybe you're seeing something that your friend is going through, and whatever it is. Go ahead and DM us at Audrey_stretch. We need to create a Stretch It Out podcast Instagram.
Yeah, I should do that, I guess. Yeah, I should do that for sure. For sure. Audrey, do you have any promises you want to make that you plan on breaking later? Like, you want to give our, all of our listeners like a gift card or something?
I mean, Chris, since I don't have a job,
oh gosh, now all of a sudden, right? Because let's remember this. Let's go back. I don't know how many weeks ago that was.
This is the first episode.
Yeah. It's been a while. By Stained. It's a good song.
I'm getting your gift card. I'm getting you a card, and I'm going to write an amazing message on it. And Nick, Chris, did we decide
Okay, hold on a second. Wait. Let's pause right there.
Pausing?
Yes. You said you're going to write an amazing message.
Yes. I'm pretty
Okay,
good with my
you
words.
realize Chris is my neighbor. I live like just a couple houses down from him. I am going to see this incredible, amazing message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm very good
So
with
if
my
when he
words.
gets the card and it says "Love Audrey," I'm going to be rather disappointed.
It's going to be a card where you open it, it's like, thank you for being a great neighbor. Love, Audrey.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be an amazing message.
And it better be meaningful because it's probably going to land itself somewhere on social media.
Is. Listen, if you guys ever get a message from me, just know that it is 100% genuine and it's got meaning and it's got love behind it. Because I am somebody, I cannot write somebody a message and fake it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you're like me. I think
so it's
you and I
either
are the same there.
It's like one or the other. It's like, okay, if I write you a message, then yeah, it's gonna say love Audrey, yeah. But when I write a message and it's a meaningful message, 100% love right there.
Well, yeah, just like me, because it's coming from the heart, right? Like,
yeah,
those are my favorite things to write.
Fake.
Like,
I can't write a fake meaningful letter. You know?
Yeah,
can't do it.
Tough to do if you're an honest person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's tough to do if you're an honest person. And that's why I feel like any message I get from any of my friends, they are the same way. So
keep an eye out, Chris. Should I send it to you, Nick, and then you'd hand deliver it to Chris? Or
no, I think it needs to go directly to Chris, and he'll let me know when you get it so we can shoot a video.
So you think I should
and
fly
that'll
over
be
to
our
Texas?
first YouTube video for Stretch It Out podcast.
Oh.
What'd you say?
I said I'll fly it over and hand deliver it to Chris myself. Just kidding, guys. Come on.
Oh goodness, I was about to say, dude. Yeah, I can easily get rid of the just kidding in post. So just keep that in mind.
Well, Audrey, you said you would hand deliver it.
Mm-hmm. Very funny. All right. What else you got, Audrey? We're at an hour, 7 minutes. I'm starving. I've been fasting since yesterday.
Nice.
It's time for me to eat some food.
Go ahead and get a Dairy Queen peanut buster parfait.
Yeah, see, that's my problem is
so
I want to go for all the good stuff. Yeah, but I can't.
No, I don't have anything. I guess I want to say thank you to everybody listening to my problems on this podcast. This was something that was definitely really big for me to talk about, mainly because I don't want our father to worry, because I know he does. So, Dad, I'm okay. Don't worry about it. And I got a plan A, B, and C, just like you taught me. So
that's right.
We're good.
And I'm sure
call
Dad,
me after he hears this.
Dad'll be proud of you too. No, he's not. And he's not going to hear it until tomorrow because the episode doesn't come out till Wednesday and it's Tuesday. So,
whew. But thank you everybody for allowing me to be vulnerable in this.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of the listeners when I say thank you, Audrey, for being brave enough and, to be as vulnerable, as you were with us in this space, in this land we call podcast land. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. Because I was like genuinely hoping like that you would talk about it, but didn't want to force it on you. And then if I listen to the playback on this, I'll probably pick up on the fact that I did kind of force it on you because that's how I operate. But I still appreciate it. And hopefully it was helpful, like you said.
I hope it helps somebody out there that if they ever go through this in the future, that it's something that they can reflect back on. I don't wish anybody to go through that, but, if it happens.
If nothing else, I mean, just knowing that somebody else, just being reminded sometimes, especially in a moment like that you're not alone is super helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that's why you and all your coworkers were shooting messages for that reason, just to not feel alone, right? In that moment.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what it was.
Best of luck to you, though, on your interview. Not that you need it, and I don't even really believe in luck, but you get what I'm saying. I'll pray for you. I know you're going to be just fine. Just keep that self-talk positive and try to keep it in check when you start to when that negativity starts to make way in there. Hopefully you think about this and go, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to even allow myself to have that conversation. I'm going to have a more positive conversation. Right.
Yep.
I think that'll help you.
That's exactly. And I'm going to listen to this podcast before going into the interview tomorrow.
To this particular episode or to this podcast?
To this particular episode.
Oh, okay. I was just being mean. That's the thing. That's the thing with these podcast deals, right? They get more and more real, right? So, which is awesome. So, I do want to have. I've got something that's super exciting that I want to say. I want to share because I'm super pumped about it.
Let it out.
But I've been talking about how hey, I'm going to get serious about my music, and I've been working on some stuff, and laying down some stuff, so on and so forth. And a really, really close friend of mine from back in the day, right? If you're not a friend of mine and you're listening to this, I was in a band a long time ago, and I hope he doesn't mind that I bringing him up because I'm sure he's not going to mind. He's a good dude. Mike McDougal.
It's too late now. You already let the cat out of the bag.
Mike McDougal. Mike and Angie McDougal. Two of the most amazing human beings on the planet. They are close friends of mine, right? And Mike and I were in Broken Melody together, right? When it first started. And the guy can play like any instrument, and he's just super talented. He's talented at everything. So like when I say, well, he's a super talented musician, I feel like it just doesn't do it justice. He's one of those guys, you know what I'm talking about, Audrey. It's one of those guys that's good at everything he does.
Like you.
So
that's my brother, everybody.
Thank you. That's high praise. He's one of those guys that's just exceptionally good at everything he does, right? Like just really good. And when it comes to music, the guy is just amazing. And anyway, I'm super excited because I was just talking to him today before we did the podcast, and we were talking about music and stuff, and we're going to be doing some music together. So I'm super pumped about that. And hopefully he listens to this and he's like, yeah, I'm freaking pumped about it too. I know he's excited because I'm excited. But we're going to like get serious about it. I don't know what we're going to call it or anything, but I'm just super excited to be doing music and doing it with him because he's just so talented. So super pumped about it, Mike. I can't wait. Yeah. So anyways, Audrey, anything else to say to the folks before we head back to reality from podcast land?
Just, I hope you guys all have an amazing week. Look for the good in every day and put a smile on someone else's face. Yeah.
Be kind. Kindness is your superpower.
Yes.
Don't forget it. We love y'all. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. Again, thank you so much for all the awesome feedback. We know that every episode's not going to be freaking amazing, right? But we love hanging out with you guys. And we love the fact that you're like, yeah, I've listened to another episode. Stretch it out with us. Again, Chris Tracy, kudos.
Yes.
Thanks for stretching it out with us, right? I'm going to cue the exit music, which is funny. I'm saying that because I have to do it in post, but yeah. Anyways, everyone, take care. We love y'all.
Love you guys.
Talk to y'all next time.
The struggles of podcast land.
Peace. The struggle is real.
You have no idea.